Hello, HtooMax fans. Welcome back from HtooMax podcast. I'm your host, HtooMax. Today we're going to talk about the new WWDC 2021 rumors and what to expect in this podcast. I'm sure you're all excited, as I am, of course, always. Whenever there's an Apple event, all the Apple fanboys and fangirls, of course, we're all excited for the Apple event and what to expect. This year and last year's particularly are different because of COVID-19 and everything's going on in this world, in this country. So Apple has been doing the events in online way, virtual events. They have been pretty good so far. I mean, they're fantastic. I love every single one of them. And April event of last month was my favorite because it was just phenomenal. We got so much new stuff. The spring loaded event, it's pretty loaded. So I think what Apple is doing in 2021 is changing the way of making events. I think the April event was pretty dope. So if they're going to continue with that trend, we could see some great stuff in WWDC 2021. Well, WWDC has always been one of the biggest Apple event of the year. Every year, we're all excited for two major events in Apple calendar. One is always in June, WWDC, and one is in September. Or last year, it was an October event because we had four Apple events last year instead of just 2 or 3. So we were pretty excited, particularly this year because we're going to see some great stuff in WW. Well, we all know what to expect for the software-wise for WW. We're going to see iOS 15, iPadOS 15, watchOS 8, tvOS, I think 15, macOS 12, and HomePod OS / AirPods OS. They're not OSs, but we're gonna call them something like that. So we're very much excited about that, and particularly I'm very much excited for the iPadOS because we just got the M1 iPad Pros, and Apple needs to take those iPad to the next level. In order to do that, they need to change the software. I'm not saying Apple should implement the macOS to iPadOS. I don't see them doing that. But at the same time, we need more stuff in the iPadOS. I'm not really excited about the iOS 15 that much because we don't really need that much of an improvement. We have good device. We have the software, which iOS 14 has been really amazing. I love every single updates that they did, widgets and all the stuff. I just if I have to wish for, I just want like a redesigned home screen and then more redesigned app icons because we haven't done the redesigned app icons in years. So I think Apple has been considering about those as well, but iOS 15 will be, I think, minimum update to me. I don't think they're gonna change that much, only some UI tweaks and some of the optimizations and stuff like that, but I can see them doing big things for iPadOS 15 and the macOS, the next version of macOS 12. I'm not sure what they're gonna call the macOS, but I think the macOS and iPadOS will be the main major OS updates for this year. Also, we're expecting new hardware this year because if you look at the odd numbers of WWDC, we got iMac Pro in 2017 and then we got the Mac Pro in 2019. We didn't get any hardware in 2020, so we are expecting a new hardware this year in 2021 because it's an odd number year. So all the rumors and leaks are leading to the new Macbook Pros with the new generations of chips like Apple M1X or like M2 chips. So we're very much excited for those. They are saying that we're not gonna get the M2 chips, so we are getting the M1X in particular. I think it's gonna be a very good chip because we have seen the M1 chip already. The performance is just amazing. That's why they have put the M1 chip in 4 Apple devices, which is so weird to me because they first put it in MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and Mac Mini, and then they put it in the iMac. And we expected the iMac, the new 24-inch iMac, to be like the M1 chip or something like that, because we expected the new iMac since last year, but we didn't get it because of the supply and demands and stuff like that. So it's a shortage of supplies. So we expected that iMac to be already M1, but what we got is the new iPad Pro with M1 chip, which shocked many people, many tech tubers, and many tech nerds and geeks around the world when they first announced it, when Tim literally just stole the Mac chip and put it in the iPad Pro, and he was pretending to be that that guy who was running on the roof and stuff like that, the stunt guy. It was so funny, but it was so amazing how they did that transition. But I think iPadOS 15 should be the main focus to make those iPad Pros to the next level. Like, it needs to be a kicker to those iPad Pros because they didn't announce anything major except the Liquid Retina XDR display on the 12.9-inch, the M1 chip. That's all they did. It wasn't that the main focus or main persuasion to the people to update it, because for me, even though they announced the Mini LED Liquid Retina XDR display, I wasn't too impressed on it, or I didn't have that much expectation of that machine or that display. Even they put the M1 chip, I was like, I upgraded from my 2018 iPad Pro. Not gonna lie, it's an amazing device. So I didn't think I need to upgrade it because I don't have any reason to, because my iPad Pro was already amazing and did everything that I need to do. So I didn't have any problems with my iPad Pro. It's an amazing device. The display is good and everything. Also, they didn't redesign the new iPad Pro, so there are many people out there who has 2018 iPad Pros, 2020 iPad Pros, even the first generation iPad Pros. So I don't think that it is a good reason for people to upgrade it just because of those Liquid Retina XDR display or the M1 chip, because we got the performance already. But if you needed more juice for your iPad because you are relying on the iPad so much, then you might need to upgrade it. Other than that, I don't see any reason why you need to be upgrading to that M1 iPad Pro. For me, I don't really need the iPad Pro that much, but the only reason I upgraded it because my 2018 iPad Pro has some dents and I don't want my value to go down in the next couple years. And then I have heard things about WWDC on the new iPadOS update. I was expecting, Mr. Prosser, John Prosser, our legend John Prosser, he expected and he said that we might get an Final Cut Pro, like Logic Pro and Xcode, the Pro apps on the iPad in next 1 year. He said it last year, so I was like, well, we have this hardware already, so why don't we just wait and see what Apple would do, because Apple won't do anything without any reason. I doubt it. So we have the M1 iPad Pro, so they just need to announce it on WWDC that, well, because you now have the M1 iPad Pro, you can now finally use those Pro apps exclusively on the new iPad Pros with M1 chip. I can see them do that. I don't think there's any reason for them to be backing up or hesitant from doing that. And one thing we found out about that lately is the M1 has the 8GB and 16GB RAM, right? So iPad has those 8 and 16GB of RAM. So for the 1TB and 2TB models, they have the 16GB, and the 128 and 256 and 512, they have 8GB each. But Apple is now limiting those RAMs just 5GB of RAM usage. So Procreate and Lightroom, other app developers, they can't fully take the advantage of the iPadOS or their applications to use all those RAM on the new iPad Pros. So I think Apple is doing that for one big reason. They're waiting for WWDC. If they don't have WWDC, let's say they release the iPad Pros in let's say if they didn't release the iPad Pros this April, what if they release in like November or October event of this year? The WWDC is already passed. Then they could have just said, for the new iPad Pros, you can use those Pro apps. But WWDC is just too close for them to announce it. So that's why I think they held back and just sitting and waiting for that big announcement. I hope I'm right. I really wish I'm right. I can't bet on my eyebrows or anything, but I just want the users, iPad Pro users, to be happy as I am, because I only use my MacBook for that reason. Because my college work, I use my MacBook Pro just for the Xcode and the Final Cut Pro on my iMac. If I could use Final Cut Pro and Xcode on my iPad Pro, I don't see any reason why I would need my MacBook. Like, I don't even need to upgrade my MacBook Pro anymore because I have the iPad Pro. I spent so much money in that machine. Trust me, when I graduated high school, I got the MacBook Air as a gift. And I traded that MacBook Air to the iPad Pro 2018. When I graduated high school, I was, it was 2019 June. So the iPad Pro was out that 2018 October. So I went into Apple Store so quick and I traded in my MacBook Air immediately. And I got the Apple Pencil. And then the next year, 2019 March, when they announced the new, 2020 March, not even 2019, 2020 last year March, when they announced the new Magic Keyboard, I bought it immediately. I couldn't even wait. It was so hard to get it because everyone said, even though it was $350, I think it's worth it. It worth every penny that I spent. Apple Pencil has been so good and it helped me with everything. I took down notes on it with my Notability app. I don't even have any papers or pen anymore in my life. I just write on those PDFs and just submit it directly to school. It's just phenomenal and amazing. That's why I don't even need my MacBook Pro anymore. When I go to school, like when we had in-person classes prior to COVID-19, everybody was looking at me in the class. They all have those MacBooks and everything, and I was just literally writing on my iPad, and people were amazed on that because I haven't even seen anybody at my school with the iPad Pro just writing and taking notes down on it. So they were just staring at me on my first day. Actually, on my first day, they were all looking at me like, what am I doing with a notepad? And I was like, well, this is not like a tablet or anything. This is the iPad Pro. And they were like, this is the iPad Pro? They've never seen that before. I was like, you guys never seen this before? I think I was the only Apple fanboy over there. Oh my god. I had to explain it so much. They were like so curious about how it works and everything. And they said they've never seen any big screen like that. It was 12.9 inch one. So they were like, I've never seen this kind of big iPad before. I was like, well, the iPad Pro has been out and they even reduced those bezels and the form factor because the first generation iPad Pro is still 12.9 inch, but it was so huge. But now they reduced it to like A4 size, but they were just amazed by it. But they found out how convenient it is to write on the iPad Pro without needing any note papers or anything like that. My only future wish list in like probably next 5 or 6 years, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I just need like a print version of it so I can just put the papers in the back of the iPad Pro and just print it out from the machine just immediately like that. I hope the third party companies are doing something like that where we can just attach something to the back of the iPad and just hit print and it prints it automatically. But it will be a thick printer, of course. But I'm just saying. But we have wireless printers anywhere, so I don't think we will even need those kind of stuff. I'm just saying. Maybe I'm just too crazy about that. But I just love my iPad Pro so much. This episode of podcast should be about the dub, but I'm just saying how the iPad Pro has changed my life and how amazing it is to use it. I just want to hear from all of you, like, how amazing and how helpful the iPad, not just iPad Pros generally, just iPad in general. Because the normal iPad, you can use Apple Pencil, of course. It's not good as the iPad Pro, but you can still use it. And iPad Air, of course, if you have the new iPad Air, the redesigned iPad Air, you can use the Apple Pencil too, which is phenomenal. So, if you have that option to use it for a school, I just want to know how is it helping you? Are you still writing down with your pens and papers even though you have the iPad with the Apple Pencil? And let's talk about the Magic Keyboard for a second. They released a new Magic Keyboard, of course, in white color. I want it so bad, but I've already spent $350 on my black one, so I think it's just a color difference. So I don't want to spend like $350 more on the same keyboard. And I was just waiting for the newly redesigned keyboard, probably next year or next 2 years later. I'm not sure Apple would do redesign like iPad Pro next year. I think they might skip next year and do it in 2023. Which I'm expecting, but I'm not sure it will happen. But if they were going to do that, I would love to see it, because they skipped 2019 and they moved to 2020, and they've been doing that. So maybe they're releasing a new product next year, but I'm not sure. But the Magic Keyboard 350, it's definitely worth it. I think it's a little bit too overpriced. If it was like $250 for the 12.9 inch and $200 for the 11 inch, I think it's much better price than the $350 on the 12.9 inch. The Magic Keyboard is more expensive than the entry-level iPad. Can you believe it? You can literally buy the entry-level iPad, and you can even add the Apple Pencil first generation, but it's expensive. It is expensive because when you buy the new iPad Pro, well, the new one 12.9 inch is even $100 expensive than previous year, so it's like $1,100, and then if you add the Magic Keyboard, it's like $1,450. That's even expensive than the entry-level MacBook Pro with M1. With 2 fans in it. Well, not 2 fans, just 1 fan in it. iPad doesn't have a fan. It's Well, you can compete the iPad because iPad has a touchscreen. MacBook doesn't have a touchscreen. And I don't think MacBook will ever have a touchscreen. I'm just saying. Because Apple wants you to spend more. Instead of just buying one product, they want you to buy two products and use it in two different ways. That's why I said macOS is not coming to iPadOS ever. Ever. Because it just can't. It just can't. So, WWDC. We don't know much about it. We just don't know much about it. Last year, we know something. We just got coming. We saw the leaks and everything. This year, we know nothing. Last year, we know something about the watchOS being like hand washing or something like that. Update is coming to watchOS. We know nothing about the watchOS this year. We know nothing about it except Apple leaked the new updates and new software updates, accessibility features way ahead of the event. And people has been wondering why, and I might have an answer for that. I think main reason why Apple leaked those images like iOS 15 redesigned UI, for example, in the settings, and the new accessibility features on your watch. You don't have to touch your watch. You can just squeeze your muscles and your fingers and stuff like that. Just do the... And you can even have a cursor on your Apple Watch. How cool is that? So I think Apple might have too much new features that they're going to announce in WWDC, so that they just announce those least important features before way ahead of the event, because they might not have much time, because they're gonna have to talk about the new MacBook Pros for about like 20-30 minutes for sure, because we're gonna have two sizes, 14 and 16 inch. I don't think redesigned Mac Mini is coming that early, but if it is coming, I'll be so happy, because Mac Mini with M1X chip will be just a game changer for many people. Mac Mini is the least expensive Apple Silicon product, and the performance is way high. It's higher than the M1 iMac. So if they put M1X on the Mac Mini, it'd be phenomenal. So we're gonna have to wait and see about that. But for the software upgrades for WWDC, we don't know much about it. We just don't know much about it. One thing, it is pretty good because we can be excited. We can have surprise when we finally see the event. We can have too much surprises when we actually see the event. So it's gonna be amazing though. And what I have to talk about? Well, the MacBook Pros, they're gonna have too many ports. They're gonna bring back HDMI ports, SD card slot, Thunderbolts, USB-C, because of the M1X. Right now, because of M1, there are some limitations. They can put all those goddamn ports. They can only put 4. And M1 can only take 2 Thunderbolts and 2 USB-C. That's maximum. Okay? So if they do the M1X, we're gonna have, I think, 10-core CPU, and they set up to like 32 cores. Well, no, I'm imagining things. 16 cores GPU probably, and the RAM up to 64 gigabytes. Probably on the MacBook Pro 16 inch. Yeah, I think you can max out on the 16 inch, but I'm not sure you can. Well, if they're using the same chip, then they can just max out on both devices, like 14 inch and 16 inch. I think what they're going to do is they're going to do exactly like the iPad Pros. We're going to have 2 different sizes, but and 2 different sizes, 2 same specs that you can just max out whatever you want, just 2 size differences. That's it. Yeah. Well, except the displays will be the same. I don't think mini LEDs are coming this year. I think mini LEDs are coming next year, because mini LED has some issues. Some issues. They're too bright. That's the first issue. They're too bright. They're too bright for my eyes, to be honest. I just can't. When I was watching the movie in bed, like I have my iPad Pro to my bedside, it's too bright. Even though if I turn off the turn down the brightness to the lowest. I just can't. It's still too bright for my eyes to sleep. Because when I close my eye, I can still see those lights in my eyes. So mini LED is great if you're watching movies when you're awake at night with people or in your bed just chilling. But if you're going to watch the movie and you're gonna sleep, that's too bright for you. Even the new iMac is too bright for me. I just can't. Or maybe just I have too sensitive eyes. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. Yeah, M1X chip, whatever. I'm excited. If the M1X chip is coming out with a 14-inch Macbook Pro or 16-inch Macbook Pro, I'm not sure which one I should get. 16-inch Macbook Pro would be a little bit too expensive for me, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get it or not because I have some scholarships that I got, so I might spend those money on that. Because I might trade in my 13-inch MacBook Pro with M1. That's a good idea, right? Trading in my 13-inch MacBook Pro to the 14 or 16-inch. What do you guys think about that? I'm not sure. I'm still not sure. I just want to see the event. That's it. And I want to see the new updates to iPadOS with those Pro apps. If they don't come this year, they'll come next year. Or something like that. I don't know. They should come this year for sure because I need them. Seriously, I need them. If Apple don't do that, I'm gonna do Apple Park and just protest. Like, Timothy, please give me those Pro apps on my iPad Pro so I can live. I'm gonna hold that sign for sure. All right, I'll see you on the next podcast episode. It'll be episode 3. I love talking on the podcast. I think it's really free on the podcast. Alright. I'll see you guys in the next week. Talk to you later. And I hope you all have a blessed, fun, happy week. Thank you.